Hey, how's it going?
Hi. Good. How are you? Here comes
Can you hear me
everybody.
okay?
I can. Can you hear me?
I don't think I
Wait.
can hear you. Let's see here. Um, oh, there we go.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, it was my speaker.
Good. Oh, wonderful.
Hope your
I
night.
loved your live earlier.
Oh, did
I
you?
got I got way too excited about the 5 free pumpkin spice or peppermint mocha done for you post. I was like, oh my god. Okay.
It's pretty
I had
exciting when things are done like that. So done for you.
I'm such a sucker for stuff like that. I'm like, oh my god, did you say free t-shirt? I'm totally winning that. Like, so when I hear things like when you jump on the call, you're gonna get this freebie. I'm like, yeah.
Love
I love it. Um, Thank you for doing that live too, by the way. That was great. I was telling my team in some of the comments I got done for you posts for MM100, and it's like so nice just to have it all mapped out and done. And I've preached before in the past, like plan your post, think about your week, blah blah blah. And I've done it before
it.
many times, but I don't do it consistently. And when I do, it's definitely pays off. And I have a funny feeling you're going to touch on some of that tonight.
Yeah.
I see more and more people are coming. Are you good to give it just like another minute, or do you want to dive right in? I don't know.
No, I'm totally good with that. Yeah, we can definitely take a few minutes and yeah, so I'll share with everybody at the end a link for 5 done for you peppermint mocha posts. And if you guys are, you can always like creep my website too, because there's other stuff there, other freebies. Like I have a quiz on what kind of fitness coach are you. There's a couple on there that are helpful in like, yeah, getting some momentum, getting things going. So.
I actually have your site open right here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just drop it in the chat for everybody
Oh, awesome.
so they can copy it. There's so much content on this site, guys. It's crazy. I'm like, oh, I'm going to do that, and I want that, and I want that, and I want that, and I'll sign up for this and that.
Where are you
I
located?
can go.
Whereabouts are you?
Okay. Yeah, there's the site. We'll give it one more minute. We'll give it till 8:05.
Yeah. I know you guys
So
are all in Eastern time, so that's good.
yeah, for the most part, I did include a friend, a girlfriend of mine who kind of has a team all over the place. But my team is primarily East Coast, as is my upline. We have a few that aren't, but we always make it work. So, I mean, do you want to go ahead and get started? I know your time's valuable. Everyone else's time is valuable. If you want, I can introduce you.
Yeah, let's do that, and I'll just make sure we've got most
I just
muted and stuff. Yeah.
somebody. There's a lot of people.
The hell's in the car?
Okay, I think we have it. Everyone can hear me? Okay, good. That's like having like the fan on over your stove, and when you turn it off, you're like, oh my God. Like when you hear all the background noise. So normally what I say to my team is if you have questions throughout the call, just go ahead and drop it in the chat. And if it's something that you really want to interject, just go ahead and unmute yourself and jump in kind of thing. Are you cool with that?
100%. Yeah.
Okay. So I asked Ashley on here to, got a straggler. Can we mute Abby? Okay. So I asked Ashley on here because I have been following her forever. She is popping up in my newsfeed like crazy. I get all her emails. I used her MM100 stuff. I go on her site all the time and I'm like, I should do one of these. Oh my gosh, I'm in her Facebook group. She has like her boot camp group that she runs, her business owners boot camp. And it's primarily, it is all network marketing, correct? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So she has this stuff. She has tons of great free content. She has amazing value in her paid content. And she's just been popping up everywhere. And, you know, I'm going to invest in something. I'm just not sure what. And I'm sure after tonight's call, I'll have some more clarity on what that is. But I just reached out and I asked her like, hey, you know, can you do team calls? Cause I'm always I'm like your stalker on Facebook. Like I'm always like stalking around. And she said yes. And I was like, okay, this is great. And then I was like, let's get her on. Let's see what she has to say. And then I'll go ahead and grab one of her offerings. But it's great stuff. And before we even begin, like, having her here on the call and this whole process that I went through from following her for probably about 6 months now and still having not committed, people are always watching. So like that consistency is so key. And, you know, you share and you send these emails and you sponsor ads and you run these groups, and there's going to be times where you feel like people aren't listening. This is a perfect example of trusting that they are, because now not only has Ashley gotten in front of me and caught my attention, I've introduced her to all 51 of you who are on this call right now. So, you know, never stop doing the work, even if it feels like it's not landing where you want it to land, because it will. And then opportunities like this are born, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to hand it over to her. I love the topic for tonight. What was the title you had for it again? I wish I had the little graphic.
Expensive hobby to killing it career.
And I think that right there sums up so many of the frustrations you guys have when it comes to this business. You're working, you want to see it paying off. A lot of you want to quit jobs, stay home with kids, pay off student loans, do these big things because you see that it is possible, but you're not understanding why it's not happening for you. So I think Ashley's going to be able to give some clarification on that tonight. And I'm going to just go ahead and turn it over.
Thank you so much for having me and for sharing that story. It is like, it's really fulfilling, especially being on the other side of that. I'm sure you guys, you hear those stories of someone following you for a long period of time, and then all of a sudden they're like, I'm ready to join you. And you're like, oh my God, that's so great. Like every post is worth it. Every effort that you put out there is worth it. So that's incredible. I'm going to share my screen, guys. I am a PowerPoint junkie. And for those of you guys that maybe have watched some of my stuff, I am a simplicity junkie too. I really, really hate when things are complicated. And today we're going to be talking about how to really take this passion of yours and turn it into something that you can really wrap your hands around and say, like, I have a really big career opportunity here that I feel comfortable like stepping out into what I really want to be doing and seeking whatever it is, the freedom, the financial side of things, whatever it is you're going after, there is a big, big opportunity for you to do that. And I'm going to share a little bit more about why I believe that is so true. So the first thing I'll do, guys, I'm just going to tell you guys a little bit about me. For those of you guys that don't know me, my name is Ashley Shaw, and I got my start in a Gold's Gym when my mom went into contractions in a Gold's Gym parking lot. So my parents owned a Gold's Gym back in the 80s, and I grew up in, you know, seeing my mom dress, you know, those like old school like aerobics thongs with the leg warmers and the old school Reeboks. Like my mom was super legit, like an aerobics instructor, and my dad was a bodybuilder. So I grew up in the fitness industry and thought in university that I wanted to be a writer is actually what I wanted to do. I wanted to write books. So I did an English literature degree, and then I also did a women's studies degree. And after school ended, I had no idea what I was going to do. And I applied to work at a gym, and I thought, oh, I'll just work here part-time, wiping down equipment, doing that whole thing. And that's where I started. I started as a part-time employee, showing members how to use the equipment. And it was a women's only environment. And I just loved it. Like there was just something about it. And I really like just kept plugging away. Like I didn't see any writing opportunities in my future. And I just loved the gym. Like I got free classes, I got to interact with members, I got to talk to them about their goals. Like it was just all the things that I really wanted to do wrapped up in a bow. And I was a personal trainer, and I managed clubs and did all that sort of stuff. And then I moved into training and development. And that's, I think, where everything came together for me. I'm going to talk a little bit about this, what this means, but I call this my sweet spot. Like all of a sudden, when I was able to connect fitness with writing with training and simplifying practices and pulling that together for people, it was like, I love teaching sales. It just like, it felt like this moment of like, I have found my calling. I just love this. So anyways, I did a ton of training and development in the fitness industry, and fast forward about 5 years from when I first landed that role, I worked my way up to a president of a fitness company on Vancouver Island. So really, like when I talk about my story, I sort of label it as like from part-timer to president. That's really what my path looked like. It took me about 10 years, but I did all the things in between. And my real passion is helping to eliminate the marketing overwhelm so that you can have the business of your dreams. Because I think when we get caught up in the day-to-day stuff that trips us out and confuses us, they always say that overwhelm is the enemy of execution. And I totally believe that. Like I need things to be simple to execute. So before I found my real calling, which is helping eliminate the overwhelm in your marketing efforts so you can have the business of your dreams, I just want to tell you where this presentation sort of stems from. So back, I was working as the president of a fitness company, and the owners there was a big lawsuit against them, which I didn't know until about 2 years into the role. And the past president of that company was actually suing them, who happened to be their cousin. Convenient enough, he was also a lawyer, and it was like at Supreme Court level that this was all going on, and the owners just decided it was not worth continuing to fight. And so in the drop of a hat, I was like I was not the president of the fitness club anymore. And I was so very lucky because for the past 7 months before that, I had a side hustle. I was working on developing my skills around putting together training programs for fitness coaches and sort of in this line of thought. So I was very lucky. But what is so important about this story is that, yeah, I could come on here and be someone that just had like a cushy job from president to all of a sudden like transitioning into marketing and helping coaches. But I feel what's super relevant about this story is like, I've been through the school of hard knocks. Like I've been through that transition of like, I have no income and I have to really build up my business through referrals and like sending my own version of like, hey girl messages to try to get in front of enough coaches to build up my business. And I'm super excited to say that it took, like I'm at the point now, I've been in this for about 1 year and 8 months, but I'm now helping over 1,000 fitness coaches each and every day with their marketing efforts. So I think that that's just an important piece of why I'm so passionate about this and why I'm passionate about this topic is like, I had expensive hobbies, which I thought yeah, figure out
That was you.
Sorry, there's a little bit of background noise. Oh, there we go. Oh, maybe not. If you have some background,
Oh, it was you.
take a look. See if you can make it out there.
Almost done with your homework?
Megan, I'm gonna get you to help me out here. I'm gonna keep going, but
are you able to just hit mute all? That's normally what I do. Like I go to. Oh wait, hold on.
The last cupcake.
Sorry guys, just give
It
me.
looks like it's Carmen Toro. I'm not sure.
Oh, that's me. Dang it.
Oh,
You can just go ahead and mute yourself. Okay, cool. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so I guess the real thing that is so important to me is like, it would be one thing for me to get up here and give you guys sales advice. I've had a ton of, presentations I've sat through where I'm like, yeah, cool, thanks for all the principles, but you've never actually done it. And I think that that's one of the things that I'm most proud of, is that I don't come from a marketing degree. I come from a fitness background and a sales background and the school of hard knocks. And I've really, I guess, had to uncover a lot of these marketing, and I'm not going to call them sales techniques. I think they're storytelling techniques, but in a way that that really has helped me launch into the place I'm at now in my business. So I'm really excited to share with you guys the aha moments, and really for me, what took my business from being something that I was inconsistently putting money into but never seeing a return, to something now that I'm able to really lean into my career, making multiple six figures and doing what I absolutely love, all online from the comfort of my home. So sit back and relax, guys, and let's get into the objectives of the presentation today. So what we're going to cover today is we're going to go over the greatest challenge that coaches face, and really I think what has brought us to all be on this call today. The next thing here is 5 things that will take you from being in the red to getting you in the black in your business. So maybe you feel like you've spent a lot of money on this coaching opportunity and you're really not sure what the biggest lever is to hold you into actually being profitable. And next we're going to get into a journey of recruiting badassery, and then we'll get into some resources to really help you be recruiting ready. Okay, I'm gonna just try this one more time, guys, to just see, is everyone good? Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, cool. I just want to make sure if the background noise is getting annoying that I can figure out that button. Okay, so hold on a sec here. Okay, there we go. Okay, so the real question, I think the greatest challenge that all fitness coaches really face in the beginning is, how do you actually take something that you love and turn it into a business? Now, my assumption is that just like I was when I first got started, I really, you guys probably all, maybe not at first, but you fell into love with fitness in some way. And all of a sudden you went from, I'm just into like sharing what I'm doing and helping others, to like, okay, now like I'm actually, there's like an amount of money that's coming out of my bank account every month, my coaching fee. And I want to make sure, like, that's obviously the minimum. Like, we pour personal development into ourselves, we pour books, we follow programs, we drink Shakeology, we do all these things. And we really, this is the biggest, I think the biggest gap that happens in the beginning is really having the tools to know, how do you take something that you love and your passion, but turn it into something profitable that you can do more of what's working and actually see that transition on the bottom line. So I think that this is, like I was in this exact same position in this bubble of loving to help and serve, but not knowing how to turn it into a business without selling my soul. And I think that there's a lot of coaches out there as well that get maybe in this trap that the only way they know how to sell and to put themselves out there is to do things they don't feel are authentic to themselves. Some people love sending hey girl messages, some people don't. And I think that there's these tools that exist for you guys, but unless they are your style or you craft them to be your own, you're never going to do something consistently that you don't like. It's learning a way of how to start to love those things that are going to make you successful. I'll give you guys a quick example. If you've ever been somebody that had a fitness goal and you wanted to achieve it, you know what that first workout felt like, right? Where you're like, oh my God, this is so hard. Or you know what it felt like when you started to have having to portion out your food for the first time, or cook clean. You couldn't just grab whatever was in the fridge or takeout. You really had to start putting your skills into practice and learning to love these things, because they are the things that make the biggest difference in your business. And this is the exact same thing when it comes to what we're going to be talking about today, learning to really love these things, because I truly think the better that you can get at these 5 things, the more that your funnel is going to keep churning. You're going to be recruiting people left, right, and center, because your energy will be super contagious with what you're putting forward. Okay, so the 5 things that I'm actually going to talk about today, I hired a branding coach when I first started. This was like a big thing that really helped me. Like 7 months before my position ended at the fitness clubs, I had hired a branding coach because I really wanted it to work this time. Like, I remember that feeling of like, man, like if I could just make this work, like I can't imagine the freedom in my life. My husband was living a 5-hour flight away. And so that I could go and like chase my dreams of being president. And I just knew that this time had to be different. There was no plan B. Plan A was like, although it wasn't as real as it became when I lost my job that day, I knew that this time I wanted to hire out the help, because I've been trying for like 10 years to get something up and running that I could have that freedom. And it wasn't until I started working with this branding coach that these things really, really clicked and made all the difference for me in my business. Okay. So if you guys are note takers, this is going to be the first thing that you're going to want to write down, which is building authentic trust. So what this really means is that this was the first thing I really noticed as I was going through these sessions with my coach, is that I really hadn't built an authentic relationship with my audience. The reason that this is so important is that, all things being equal, people will always do business with and refer business to people they know, like, and trust. If you have 2 people that are equal, 2 coaches that are equal, your audience on the other side is always going to choose people that they know a little bit better, they trust a little bit more, and that they like a little bit more. So the big question around this and how you build trust is really around your story. And the reason is that our story really helps people identify what barriers we've been through, what challenges we faced, and how we've overcome them. I think like you guys have probably seen these posts before where coaches have like this before and after picture. I'm going to a retreat this week in Colorado with a Beachbody team. And one of the girls in that team has lost 122 pounds. And it's like every time she posts that before and after picture, her story and why you should trust her is like up on the screen. Now, if you're somebody that doesn't have a before and after, that is totally okay. There's 1,000,001 reasons why your story matters. But what's so important is figuring out what is your story and why should someone trust you? And, even thinking about today, if I hadn't prefaced my story, you guys probably wouldn't trust me as much, right? Like knowing that I have a fitness background, that I have a writing background, that I have skin in the game when it comes to like being an online marketer and really putting yourself out there. So you want to think about this in the same way when it comes to your coaching business. Because this needs to be an authentic part of your story. If you're thinking about your posting strategy, you should be referring back to your story at least 2 to 3 times a month. And that can be everything from how you got into fitness, how you knew you needed to make a change, why you love helping and inspiring others. It can be little tidbits. You don't have to write a novel, but you totally can, and then chunk it down into little pieces and share those in posts. But this is a really important piece about why your story matters. And this is really what develops trust. If this is a topic that you guys are really interested in, there's an incredible podcast episode with Oprah in her Super Soulful Conversations, her and Brene Brown. And they talk about the anatomy of trust. It is just an incredible It's incredibly insightful into how people start to trust you and what goes into that relationship. So your story, why should I trust you? This has got to be the heartbeat of the posts that you're putting out there, or the Facebook lives, or the Insta stories, all that sort of stuff. These posts are so, so very important. Okay, number 2. The second reason that I was being held back in my business is I hadn't differentiated myself in a sea of sameness. So there's a ton of people out there that provide marketing services and provide, writing and copywriting and those sort of things. And for fitness coaches, it can feel like, especially when we attend a lot of conferences, there's a lot of coaches. We attend like Super Saturday or Super Sunday, there's a lot of coaches. Our networks, all coaches. The posts that we see, people interacting with us, it can just feel like there's a lot of us out there. So when it comes to this point number 2 here, you can't look at your competition and say you're going to do it better. You have to look at the competition and say you're going to do it differently. So that is by Steve Jobs. So I want to dissect what this means a little bit more, because I think that what can happen sometimes is coaches will, when you're first getting started, like you do what you need to do to be successful and survive. So you look at maybe what other coaches are doing and you start to just try to copy their style or copycat a little bit. And but here's the thing, like you really can't cut the noise because social media is busy. There's lots of things going on. And in order to really stand out, you have to serve up why you are different. You have to be clear on that before your customer will be. Your customer is not going to see you as a coach and be like, oh, that's why they're different than that other fitness trainer at the gym. You've got to be able to eloquently communicate that. And so I'll give you guys a little bit of an example of this. Like one of the things that I think for myself really differentiates me is that most marketers are not so much in the fitness space that they truly understand it and they were born into it. And then the other side of that is that I am a natural writer. So when it comes to copywriting, like putting together emails, putting together posts, like I'm one of those people that it will take me way longer than most because I'm so picky about the order and the emotion and all those things. It's very rare, and I've never heard of anyone that has those that secret sauce to make them who they really are. But the important part is being able to nail that for yourself. I'm 100% sure. I call this like the magical unicorn. You guys are all unicorns in your own way, but it's figuring out, why am I different than everyone else? And the thing is, like what you may think, I've done a lot of coaching calls with coaches in the past, helping them define this. And I hear it all the time from them where they say, well, like I was never really into fitness and like, like eating right. Well, like, I just was never good at that stuff. And I hear all these stories and I'm like, dude, like that's what makes you actually different than everyone else is like, take what those things are that maybe you don't see as strengths and like tell that story. That's the stuff that matters. Like people that were injured, people that, had something happen to them that was life-threatening. Like all of these things give you empathy and you can sympathize with other people out there that are your people. And that's what you really want to be able to do is figure out why you're different and communicate that. So figure out, I call this your sweet spot. What makes you stand out in a sea of sameness. How I think about this is like, I think of it as sort of like the golden circle. If you guys have ever seen anything by Simon Sinek, he always talks about these 3 circles that intersect in the middle. So think about, what do you love? Like what's one thing that you could never give up? For me, that's fitness. Like it's just always been a part of my life. Then think about one thing that that you really were born to do. Like you cannot extrapolate it from your life. You were absolutely born to do this thing. Usually that's like a skill of some sort. For me, I've been writing since I was like in grade 1. I have books and books and books of things I've written. that were obviously terrible, but I had that desire when I was so young to do that stuff. And then think about sort of like, what skills or education or training do you have that can really help you like solidify and give you like a little bit of like your credentials there, but also like sort of it's your street credit, right? For me, I worked in fitness clubs for 10 years. And I've been in fitness for the past 16. So thinking about it that way, it doesn't have to be a formal education. It can be something where you just have a ton of experience working with people in that example. Okay. Third thing, I hadn't aligned my tribe. So when it comes to our people, you really want to stick with the people who pull the magic out of you and not the madness. So I don't know if you guys have ever had a client that you like could not stand. Has anyone had that before? Yeah. Okay, cool. So what I liken this to is that we all have our own personal values, right? We have things that we really care about that are really important to us. And values are like a magnet. So I remember when I first started in my business, I was just wanting to help everyone, left, right, and center. And I really allowed myself to get sort of walked all over. Like people would no-show me multiple times in a row, but I was like, oh, like I need that person. Like I need to talk to them. I want to get on a team training call. And I really just didn't have those boundaries, which ended up leading to a lot of heartache, which it does, right? If you have your values and you can't trust yourself to stick to them, you will allow people to walk all over you. So I'm very much myself personally, I believe in simplicity. And I also believe I'm not detail oriented. I'm very much like on the creative side of things. I'm not like to a T detail oriented. So if you want to work with me, I am about things that are simple, but hella creative. And I think it's really important that I'm clear about that, because if I attract people that don't believe what I believe, then it can suck your motivation right out of you. So when I now come across somebody that we don't seem to be a good fit, like I'm very quick with that gut feel now, because I know what that really is that my values don't align with their values. So the lesson here is that if you come across somebody that you're working with that does not align, like something feels off, there's some dissonance there, that is a sign that your values are not aligned and you need to move on. The other thing that's really important about this step is be super clear in your posts who you want to attract and who you don't. This is like such a cool, I love this post when people are like, you know, I'm looking for whatever it is, like women, ladies, whatever, that are sick of making excuses and actually want to do something different this time. They've told themselves time in and time out that they were going to make the changes and they didn't. And now they're sick about it because they know that this is such an important part of setting an example for their kids. Like that's how specific you want to get about calling out your audience. Here's the thing. We have become, I think, I don't know if call it a society, I don't know, like a generation, whatever we call that. We've become obsessed with engagement on our posts. I'm going to challenge that and say, guys, it's not about engagement. It's about the right people reading your message at the right time. You can get 100 likes on a post and ain't nobody signing up. And what's the point in that? I would way rather know exactly who I want to work with, speak directly to them, help them like move that limiting belief out of their way and work with that person and have like half the engagement. I call this like having okay, like all the people in your network think you're okay and like your post versus having 10% of the people in your network really, really connect with something and it actually move them towards action. That's so much more important. So if you're somebody that gets like sort of frazzled, you're like, oh, like my post has only got like 8 likes or 10 likes. Like, just be worried about your messaging, who you're talking to, and what they need to hear to move forward in their journey. Because that's the stuff that matters. Like, and I'll be honest with you guys, like when I first started, I was so worried about my Instagram. Like, I hired someone in Serbia to do all my posts. And you know how many clients it got me at that time? None. Because I didn't have my messaging down pat. It's not that Instagram isn't important. That's not what I'm saying. But my messaging just wasn't there. I didn't know who I wanted to attract, who I wanted to help, and what I was looking for. So that trumps post engagement every single time. So think about, what are your values and who do you want to attract or retract from your tribe? It's such an important question to be able to answer. Okay, number 4, I hadn't defined my authentic brand experience. So what this actually means is your brand is a story unfolding across all customer touch points. So I'm going to take a bit of a different approach with this. I'm also going to say that your brand is how your customer journey begins and how it ends. Has anybody here had someone message them before and you've never talked to them before? I've gotten a series of like 2 to 3 messages recently that I found super interesting. One of them was, hey, I don't know how we met. Can you remind me something, something, something? And it was definitely like a network marketer that didn't know me at all. And it was sort of this like weird, transition. Like, it was like, I wasn't sure where it was going, but it was a cold message. And it was like, well, like, if you don't remember how you added me or whatever, like we probably shouldn't be friends. Like, I don't know, like, we all have a lot of friends. We all have a big network. Like, you probably shouldn't be messaging me. So that customer journey for me, like if she was trying to sell me something, that went downhill very, very quickly. The other one that tends to happen a lot is that cold message that's like, and I get this one all the time too, hey, are you on a health and fitness journey too? That one always, like, it stings me because I feel like, well, one, if you actually read my profile, you would know that of course I am. I have been since birth, like, first of all, but it just feels a bit like we're not really on the same page here. And that to me is your branding and how you stand out and how you really guide your customers along their customer journey. Now, I'm definitely not saying like don't message, but I really think it's imperative to think about, how do you want your customer to first come across you? And how do you want them to be led down the path? Now, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here and tell you what I think is the most profitable way to think about your customer journey. I think that your posting plan and what you put out there for your social media is to make people curious about what you do, but not just fitness. Like, think of your hand. There are 5 points. One of them is fitness. You've got other things in your life that are interesting, that you have going on, that you should be talking about. That's what goes on your stories. That's what goes on your feed. Your job is to get people interested and like you and trust you so that they want to come into either a free community you run where you email collect on the way in, or you have a freebie or a recipe guide or something like that you can exchange for their email. Now, the reason I say this customer journey and why this is so important is that I'm not sure if you guys know this, but your visibility when you have email, you're 10 times more likely to be able to get a message delivered when it comes to someone's email versus social media. Now, I think we all know this, like the delivery rate of social media posts is somewhere between 2 to 6%. Email, the average open rate is 20%. So this is sort of how I think about it. The top of your funnel is your social media posts, what you put out there on top. And then once they like you, you've built curiosity, you want to get their email. So do that either in a free group, or do that by offering a freebie and saying, hey, drop your email below and I'll make sure to send you the 10 recipes and much more, or whatever, right? Then you have an email series that you're sending out. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. It can be recipes, it can be Facebook Lives you've done, all that sort of stuff. That is where you build an intimate relationship. It's sort of like dating, right? The top of the funnel is like your dating profile. Then you want to go on that first date, but you need their email to do that. And then once you're dating, they've given you their digits, that sort of idea. Then you get intimate and you start talking about more of that stuff they need to hear to convert. I don't think, like, for me, the posts are not getting into like as much commitment up there. It's curiosity. Some commitment up there is good for sure, but it really, I'm telling you guys, like, for the majority of anything that people purchase from me, it's from my emails I send out. So really important, if you're not doing that, that's a quick and easy thing. If you do one thing from today's presentation, start collecting emails, and I promise you, you will be sending me an email a year from now thanking me that you got started right away on this. Okay. Last point here is I didn't know who I was talking to or what they needed. So you're probably all familiar with the term ideal customer. So if you're, let's refer back to Steve Jobs here for a sec. So get closer than ever to your customers, so close that you can tell them what they need well before they realize it themselves. This is about understanding your ideal customers so much that you know the thoughts that go on in their head. Here's the beautiful part about this is that the majority of people we help are 2 to 3 steps before us in our journey. So like I can go back to the time that I really wanted my online business to work and I was struggling. I was grasping at straws. I was spending money in ways that definitely didn't get me the traction I wanted. So I can like close my eyes and go back there. So can you guys. Like you can really think about who were you before this journey, before you became a coach, and before you really stepped into this opportunity. That is exactly who you're talking to when you think about your ideal customer. And I want you guys to literally picture when you're writing a post, they are sitting across the table from you. Don't spray and pray. That's like talking to everyone and expecting like your ideal customers to come out of the woodwork. That just doesn't happen. It really comes from speaking directly to them so that they can really like, they read it and they're like, oh my God, like I felt like you were just speaking directly to me. That is where we want to get to with this. So you want to think about who, like a lot of marketers will talk about having a brand avatar. So it's somebody that you can picture in your mind, you know, like their name, how many kids they have, what kind of car do they drive, what are their limiting beliefs, like what's holding them back, what do they tell themselves about why they can't get fit or eat healthy, what keeps them up at night. Like think about this to the point, like when you think about what's running through their head, like, oh my gosh, like a diary. Like I had maybe two too many drinks last night. Like, oh, I can't believe I let myself do that. Like I'm just feeling like really crappy today. Oh, the hustle and bustle, like my alarm's gone off. I have to get out of bed. I have like not a minute to myself. Like you want to be thinking like in that much detail about your ideal customer. That's how you can connect directly to them. Okay. So now I want to take you guys down a really quick journey. I told you guys in my Facebook Live I was going to tie this in, and there's no better brand that does this better than Lululemon. So what I want to do is show you, like not just from my experience, like sure I could tell you this worked for me, but if I could show you guys in a different example out there in the world, then you can actually go and have a look at how all these pieces come together. So I want to talk about Lululemon, which I'm 100% confident everyone has heard of Lululemon and is very familiar and may even be in a pair of their yoga pants right now. So Lululemon started in Vancouver, Canada in 1998. And the gentleman that started the company is now worth 2.8 billion. So obviously like knew what he was doing. So what happened with Lululemon, it started as a design studio by day and a yoga studio by night. And it soon became a standalone store in November of 2000 on West 49th Avenue in Kitsilano. So it really didn't start off as obviously like the guy Chip, like he didn't have a whole bunch of money to throw into this, but it just sort of started as this place where people met, came in for yoga classes, and then also had the storefront as well. So this is how, so we're gonna like align this, right? So the first thing we talked about was telling your story. This is how Lululemon tells their story. Our first designs were made for women to wear during yoga. Through plenty of feedback from our guests, ambassadors, and elite athletes, we now design for yoga, running, cycling, training, and most other sweaty pursuits for men and women. Not to mention our designers are athletes and sweat-minded people too. So we want people to reach their full potential through providing the right tools and resources and encouraging a culture of leadership, goal setting, and personal responsibility. We live a life we love. We set our goals to align with our vision, and it's why so often our one-year goals become today's reality. I don't know about you guys, but I get like full body chills when I hear that. And the reason being is that there's a story in there. I'm picturing in my head all these people working for Lululemon that like threw in their feedback to help make this experience so good for their guests. All these sweat-minded people just being together and creating this like culture that as soon as you walk into a Lululemon, you can feel it. It's so different than anything else that existed out there. But they do a beautiful job of really weaving this story in and helping tell us why they do what they do. So this, I think, is just a beautiful example. Okay, moving on. Step number 2. This is their sweet spot. So it was a yoga studio by day, as I mentioned. Chip Wilson, he was a technical fiber guru. So he started a company called West Beach before he started Lululemon, which was surfing and snowboarding and euphoric feelings. Like that's why he loves snowboarding and surfing so much. And what happened is with yoga and meditation, he started to be able to get that euphoric state from yoga and meditation. So that's really why yoga became on the forefront for him, is that it aligned with what he was looking for. The vision was to create more than a place where people could get gear to sweat in. He wanted to create a community hub where people could learn and discuss the physical aspects of healthy living, mindfulness, and living a life of possibility. So all of a sudden, you have this space of fitness, clothing, that is all of a sudden not just a place where you buy clothes anymore. It's like you've got all these unique fibers and technology that's going into how they create. And then you've also got this community hub. If you guys have ever been to a Lululemon, which I'm 100% sure you all have, like when they go in there, there's a community that's happening. They're asking you about what you do to sweat. They're telling you about the fabrics. All these things are happening. I don't know about you guys before, but I probably applied to work for Lululemon at least 4 times. Like, it was just like I wanted to be part of that culture. But it's because they've nailed their sweet spot. Like, they really stand out because they know how they've looked at the competition and they've created this difference between what they offered outside of what everyone else had. Okay, step number 3. You guys probably recognize this. This might either be a Lululemon gift card or one of their bags. And what I love about it is they've got all their values right here. And what happens is if you believe what they believe and you see it here, like sweat once a day to regenerate your skin, or friends are more important than money, practice yoga so you can remain active in physical sports as you age. As you read those things and identify, you start to trust their brand even more. Because you're like, oh, I believe what they believe. And it just starts to formulate this sort of like this karma between you, that You trust what they put out because they believe what you believe. And that's the beauty of really nailing your values. Like, here's a trick. I would legit take their bag, look at their values, and say, okay, what do I agree with? And how can I use these things to put them in my posts? Like, that's what I would be thinking about. This is a cheat sheet. If you agree with any of this stuff, utilize it for your posts, because there are a ton of people out there. Like, Lululemon has done their research. That is for sure. This is a cheat sheet on how you can put some stuff out there that, when you read this, you're like, yeah, seems so simple, but it's so true, right? Okay, next we're going to move into their brand and more of I want to talk about their customer journey. So every brand has an archetype, actually. This brand archetype for Lululemon is called the Magician. There's tons of brand quizzes out there. There's one by Kay Putnam, and she does a brand quiz that can tell you like what your brand archetype is. But what Lululemon's is to make dreams come true, understand the laws of the universe. The strategy in which their brand does this is develop a vision and live by it. Help other people transform their lives using new methods. So what I love about this, when we think about our Lululemon's customer journey here, is they're super clear on what their brand does, which when you're a magician, you think about it like you're like incorporating magic into changing something from one thing to the next. So they have that right here. We know that yoga rejuvenates our bodies and calms our mind. And one of the ways we practice giving without expectation is by sharing our love for yoga. So there's this transformation that they're talking about here, right? That yoga rejuvenates our bodies and calms our mind. That transformation is happening. So it's just, I found it really interesting how they can take that branding or that customer journey. Like when they talk about yoga rejuvenating our bodies, that customer on the other side ultimately believes that that's important. And that's why they support Lululemon. They also believe that, right? So they tie that into their messaging and what they're putting out there to attract their ideal clients. So they've nailed their customer journey and really understanding what their customer wants. Okay, this is gonna blow your mind. Like, this was one thing when I found this, I was like, are you kidding me? And all the dots connected, like when I found out about Ocean. Okay, so let me introduce you to Lululemon's muse. Her name is Ocean. And the ideal customer at Lululemon is a 32-year-old professional single woman who makes $100,000 a year. She's also engaged, has her own condo, is traveling, is fashionable, has an hour and a half to work out a day. And Lululemon attracts people that want to be like her. Chip Wilson talks about why this ideal customer persona works for the brand. If you're 20 years old or you're graduating from university, you can't wait to be that woman. Wilson says if you're 42 years old with a couple of children, you wish you had that time back. What this has in common is that everyone that works at Lululemon aspires for the same things. They aspire for travel, fashion, sweating every day. Not only does the brand attract these customers, it also attracts people that want to work there because all their values are aligned. If you've ever gone into a Lululemon and looked up on the wall, like everyone's goals are there, and those are the things you see. You see travel, you see sweating every day, you see personal development, like all these things come together. So what's so cool about this ideal customer and really nailing this person, Ocean, is that every post or everything that Lululemon puts out there is to Ocean. And they have a male ideal customer as well. But if you guys go and look, like, do me a favor and look at their Pinterest. When it comes to Lululemon, they are essentially like all their pins are about Ocean, for Ocean. And that's how they come up with their content that they're going to put out and help serve their audience. So think about it for yourselves, right? Like when you think about your ideal coach or your ideal customer, what are those things that they aspire for? Do they aspire for, how to squeak in some peace and quiet every day, like just some time for themselves? Do they aspire for like meals their kids don't throw on the floor. Like what are those things they truly aspire to? That's the type of posts and the type of content you want to put out there. So Lululemon, they know exactly who they're talking to. So guys, I want you to think for a minute. What do you think would truly change if you and your team truly knew why your story matters and why you're so different as a coach, and what message your ideal coach or customer needed to hear to actually take action? The one thing I can guarantee you guys is that the more clear you become on those things, the more easily you will attract the people that want to do those same things. And that's how you build a team of people all pushing for the same goals. Not the ones that make excuses, not the ones that are half in, half out, but the people that truly want to be here and all of your values are aligned. And that's truly what happened to me. These 5 things were what came into focus for me. And it was literally the difference between working for someone else and that paycheck coming from corporate to being able to flip over to 6 figures, having the freedom and having all those things that I've always wanted, but not knowing how to get there. These 5 things were life-changing. So guys, if you really liked what we talked about today, I have 3 things for you. The first one is Business Bootcamp for Fitness Coaches. This is a free community in which I do a lot of Facebook Lives. I put any freebies I have in this group. It's a Facebook group, but you can get to it by just going to my website, Join Business Bootcamp. And I would love to have you guys in there. I'm always creating 5-day done for you freebies, all that sort of stuff. I would love for you guys to have copies of it. So make sure that you join Business Bootcamp, and I'll post this link as well in the group. The next thing I want to share with you guys is the 5 free done for you peppermint mocha posts. So make sure that you go to ashleyshaw.ca/peppermint mocha posts to get a copy of those as well. Those will just drop into your email box. One day at a time, they'll trickle in. But that's going to help set you guys up for success for launching your peppermint mocha. Now, if you're like, cool, this stuff is great, but how do I get like the strategy that Megan was talking about? If you guys are interested in more and you want to get more into sending emails, to having a freebie, to having me help you with your challenge posts to recruit coaches and your top of funnel social media posts, if you go to ashleyshaw.ca/monthly marketing strategy, that's where you're going to find all this stuff wrapped up and monthly content just for Beachbody coaches to help you guys get those big rocks in place so you can really move your business forward. Again, it's ashleyshaw.ca/monthly marketing strategy. And I'm super happy. I'll share all these links so you guys have them. This is some of my info, email, Instagram, any of that stuff. If you guys want to reach out, super happy to help. Yeah, we can get into some questions. I'd love to be able to answer any questions you guys have if you do. All right, so.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I have like 4 pages of notes. I was like, I had to tell myself to like stop writing so that I could keep listening. Because I would just keep like elaborating. Like my mind, you were just taking me in like all these different directions of like things I could share and things I could post and stories I could tell better. And that was really, 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 really good. I really needed to hear so much of that. And I can't wait to go back through the notes and likely listen to this call again. Normally when a call like really lands with me, I'll throw it on again the next day in like the car, because I feel like when calls are really good, I grab a lot of good stuff out of them, but then I miss a lot of stuff because I'm focused on like that one bomb that like landed across the way and like I missed a couple things. So if you don't mind getting me the recording, and then I can share that with the teams as well. If you don't mind, I'm going to scroll the chat. Do you have a couple of seconds if anyone wants to ask you a question?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, any questions you guys have, I'll definitely be able to answer. And I'll share the PowerPoint with you guys too, or the PDF, Google Slides, whatever we call it.
Oh, wait, I think I wrote down a question I had. Oh, I have one question for you. So, you really emphasized email, which I have email. It does work, been inconsistent with it. Do you have, for someone who's just getting started with email, like a lot of us are still like very much using like Facebook Messenger and IG Messenger and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What do you recommend them to use? ConvertKit, MailChimp? Like, what do you use? What do you recommend a new person to use?
Yeah, so I just started with MailChimp because it's free. And that was just an easy way, like until you get up to 1,000 subscribers, I wouldn't be too concerned about, I use ConvertKit now, but I started everything on MailChimp. And MailChimp is even great. Like if you have a website, you can actually build like just a landing page on MailChimp with MailChimp. So you can collect stuff too. So yeah, that's where I would start out is MailChimp for sure.
Thank you. I love it. I started out with MailChimp and then I moved over to ConvertKit as well.
Yeah,
and it takes a little time to get used to using them, but it's so worth it when you do.
Yeah, it's really worth it. Like once you get into like ConvertKit and all the stats that you have available. But yeah, like the main thing I think if you're just getting started, just get yourself signed up with MailChimp, and yeah, just like it's just about consistency. Like even if you only start with emailing your list like once every 2 weeks, like it doesn't have to be crazy. Just connect with them because they'll keep seeing your name, and that is the most important piece, is they keep seeing you come up.
Thank you so much. And an unsubscribe in email, I take way less personally than like an unfriend or an unfollow on social media.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, oh, okay.
That's a values thing for me, because it's like if somebody unsubscribed, like that is a really good sign you're doing your job, that your message is super clear. Because you don't want anyone on your email list that's probably like I guess like I'm super fine with people just consuming content and never buying from me. Like that, I love that. Like I will serve them always. But the people that like hang around or like complain or like whatever, like unsubscribe. Like just go find someone else that can help you. I'm not your person. So like, you know, it's good with that. Yeah.
Amen. All right. Last call for questions. Anybody? I usually try and wrap this time up. Otherwise it can kind of drag on.
I see. Okay. So
Joanna?
There was a question. What does it do exactly? But does someone else have a question? I can answer those after.
I think Joanna Lucas has a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about like kind of a content strategy for emails, or like how, if you're just kind of like starting out with doing a regular email, like how often, or like would you try and put like how many pieces of content would you put in an email, and what would you suggest?
Awesome. Great question. So I think when you're first getting started, like, it's okay to send an email like every couple of weeks. As you get, like, here's what happened with me is like, I sent them inconsistently. I was like, okay, like when I have something, I'll send it out. And then what happened is I started sending emails every week very consistently. And I saw a big change in how many people knew what I was offering and what was going down. So even just start somewhere. Like if you can eventually get to 1 time a week, then I think that's awesome. But if you're a person that's like, no, I don't want an email once a week, your preference is once every other week, your ideal customer is going to be the same as you. So just lean into that and go with what you would want. And then when it comes to a content strategy, like, so for the done for you content that I put together for emails, I follow a structure of like, my first email of the month is I include a healthy recipe that's seasonal to that time of the year. I try to link in some like things about Shakeology without it being like too Shakeology. I more talk about like, you know, importance of protein and different things like that. And then my next email, so the first one is like nutrition. The next one would be like habits or tips to help them be successful in the journey. And then I would always have like a call to action with what you have going on, like with your workouts. Now, the thing to not forget about email is that you always want to have a link in your email with a call to action, asking them to do something. And the one thing I would recommend for you guys is like send them to the 14-day bod trial. That's like your best bet. Like just get their toe in the water. If you keep sending that with a link and asking them to join, or like, you know, come try it out. I'm doing this week. Like over time, they will eventually do it. It just takes time to convert people.
I love that you mentioned just sending them the 14-day bod trial, because I think we get really caught up in trying to be more than just Beachbody, that we forget that we are selling Beachbody. You know what I mean? And the company has tons and tons and tons of free, if not very low cost things right at our fingertips that we can use. And something like she just said, the 14-day bod trial, isn't that the end goal, to get them using bod? And here we have a free trial and we have links that we can be blasting out all over the place, and we rarely offer them. Instead, we spend hours trying to find like 21 days of let's just use a crock pot and like running groups and stuff like that. And, you know, Autumn's talked about this before too, where they're doing like all these meal plans and groups and stuff, but never is anyone like, oh, let's make all our meals from Fixate this week and try and sell a Fixate, which is a really low cost thing. It's a $15 cookbook. I order a book on Amazon almost every day, you know? And I think we sell short, like our ability to sell what we already have a lot of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. It could be the same with Clean Week too, right? Like low hanging fruit. People will buy a smaller cost product from you first. And then like what I would do is your customer list, that's where I'd be selling like MM100, the work, you know, bar, like that's where you sell the bigger commitment packages. Is once they become a customer, once they become, you know, a bod member, they already like you. They've obviously joined. So that's your opportunity to upsell them there.
Yeah, that's a really valid point. Let me just check the chat one more time. Yeah, you're getting a lot of great feedback on how amazing this was. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
We really, really enjoyed it. And I'm sure everyone, if you haven't joined the bootcamp group that she runs on Facebook, like please go join it. It's great content. It's great connecting with other coaches, other network marketers. It's just a really positive community too. I never see anything like crazy in there, which is nice. Because sometimes you join groups and you're like, oh my God, what did I get myself into?
Yeah, I'm very
really nice group.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. That group is like the I'll send you guys perfect. Someone was able to throw those in there. I'll post the Facebook group in your guys' group as well. But it is really like we just share what's working. I go live like 2 to 3 times a week to just talk through different questions that people are sending to me and that I'm getting. And just trying to share as much value as possible. Like that group should just make you feel like you've got like some additional support from other coaches too in the community that have similar goals. So it's a really good group. And here's the thing, like this sounds crazy, but it goes back to like what we talked about. I've only had to ever take out one person, but it goes back to the values thing, right? Like once you really establish who the people are you want to work with, like everyone just rises to that occasion, and the people that don't, they don't last. So anyways, just yeah. Cool.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you guys are so welcome. Thank you so much for jumping on, and I'll post all the links in the group to make sure you guys have them, as well as the recording.
Awesome. Thank you again. All right. And thanks you guys for taking time out, for using your husbands to do bedtimes and bath times and dinner times and for those of you who are folding laundry and doing things, thank you for, for being here. And we'll all talk soon. Have a good night.
Guys, have a great night.